In this audiovisual interpretation, I will examine the film The Piano through the feminist film theory, focusing on gender and power. The Piano is a 1993 film directed by Jane Champion and set in colonial New Zealand in the 19th century. It follows Ada McGrath, played by Holly Hunter, a mute woman that has a fascination with playing the piano. She is married to Alistair Stewart, played by Sam Neill. Stewart is raised by traditional norms, alongside their daughter, Flora, played by Anna Paquin. The film also introduces George Baines, played by Harvey Keitel, who is the love interest to Ada. A key argument of this film is that Ada enters a world where male authority shapes her life and limits her freedom. The typical 19th century marriage was very traditional, where husbands made decisions for their wives. Her being mute, the only outlet and her independence she has is playing her piano. The piano is her voice and her identity. To give context of the following scene, Stewart becomes aware of the relationship of his wife and Baines. Stewart is overcome with rage and madness. He rushes into the house and tries to attack Ada while she is innocently reading a book. Ada tries to run away from Stewart after he attempts to hit her with the axe. He then tries to smash her piano. She is enraged, so she tries to stop him from damaging her piano, which symbolizes her embodiment. Him driving an axe into the body of the piano demonstrates disobedience towards her marital behavior. A spool of white thread symbolizes how fragile Ada's freedom is. While Stewart has her pinned down, the camera is shaky and close. The thread symbolizes how strength can be easily snapped. There is a brief moment that Stewart shows lust but is quickly subsides to rage, and the camera pans back to the spool once again. This time, the spool is unwound, displaying her emotions unraveling. The moment highlights the unequal power dynamics between Stewart and Ada as he violently grabs her by the collar, treating her body as something he has a right to control as he pleases. Ada gives it her all to try and fight and get away from him, while Stewart continues to manhandle her. This scene shows the unequal power between Stewart and Ada as she struggles to crawl away. The shaky camera follows her fear and bodily vulnerability. Stewart quickly drags her back, showing how her resistance is overpowered by male violence. Flora's panic makes the violence even more disturbing, showing how male control over Ada also harms the child. Stewart is now forcing her to stay still and forcing her hand onto this tree stump, reducing her body to something he can take ownership and punish. Instead of accepting her independence, he shows aggression violently. Ada appears to accept her fate as Stewart prepares to cut her fingers, her expression defeated and empty as she stares lifelessly at her daughter. Even though Ada struggles with all of her strength, she is ultimately unable to escape Stewart's control. The climatic scene shows him using all of his might to chop off her fingers. Her fingers are especially symbolic because Ada is a pianist, and without her fingers she loses her identity and independence. Since she is mute, her hands are an extension of her voice and creative expression. Stewart is not only hurting her body, but also attacking her autonomy and her ability to express herself. This scene shows how patriarchy reacts when a woman resists male control. Visually and emotionally, this scene is disturbing because it shows the cost of female resistance in a male dominated world. Ada's punishment is tied directly to her refusal to submit. A strong feminist reading would argue that this scene represents the violent enforcement of patriarchy, where a man tries to destroy a woman's purpose when he realizes he cannot control it. The next piece is very calming, just like the rain falling during this scene. Her back is turned to the camera as she slightly raises her head to absorb the rainfall on her face, possibly giving her a peaceful emotion. Perhaps it is the finality that her life is altered permanently, or she has given up fighting. Either way, her life has been impacted negatively at the hands of a man. With the scene now turned to Flora, Stewart gives her Ada's fingers in a handkerchief. Stewart casually instructs Flora to give the fingers to Baines. This token expressed the ownership of Ada to Stewart. There is very little remorse shown on Stewart's face, as he was determined to show Baines who was the controlling entity in Ada's life. He informs Flora that if Baines continues on having a relationship with his wife, more fingers will be delivered in a similar matter. Relating to the article Social Inequalities, Empowerment, and Women's Transitions into Abusive Marriages, a case study by Myanmar, this scene from the piano can be read through the feminist film theory as an example of how gendered power within marriage is enforced through control, fear, and violence. The article argues that gender inequality shapes women's power within marriage and increases their exposure to intimate partner violence, which connects closely to how Stewart's treatment of Ada is in the scene. As he pins her down and physically dominates her, the film shows Ada's body becoming the site where male authority is violently imposed. In film theory terms, this is not just a personal conflict between husband and wife, but a representation of male dominance power, where women agency, movement, and self expression are restricted within the marriage. This scene therefore supports the article's idea that unequal gender structures shape the distribution of power in intimate relationships and expose women to abuse. This concludes my critical analysis of the film The Piano. Attached is my citation of the article.